So let's say we're in a place and I have a wounded shoulder and Lisa's passing by and by mistake, she hits my shoulder. And due to the pain, I get very angry. Ouch! What was that? And I get so angry and I kick Lisa back. Lisa gets shocked. Why did I kick her? She didn't mean to hit me here. So she this time punches me in the shoulder that I'm hurt in. That hurts me even more. I kick her back more, and that's it. We keep wounding each other reflexively because we keep hitting each other in the pain. If I am conscious enough when I was first hit by Lisa, instead of reacting and hitting her back, I would realize, I am the injured one. Lisa just revealed to me where I am hurt. If I can just stay, if I can heal this, if I can protect it until it's healed, if I can stay away from crowded places until it's healed, things wouldn't escalate like this. So relationships reveal to us our psychological wounds, our traumas, what's in us, our places of pain. And it really depends on our level of development and consciousness and awareness, how we can either make use of how relationships point to these things, or unfortunately, just out of autopilot, react and start hurting each other and wounding each other. There is a lovely quote by Rilke that, again, I like to start talking about relationships with. For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of all our tasks, the ultimate test and proof, the work for which all other work is but preparation. Now, due to these two quotes, I always leave relationship work to the end of my programs. It's like after 2.5 years of study, we really go into deep relationship work because it depends on knowing yourself very well. And I also, in working with Enneagram, I do not focus just on type with type. So some people make this big matrix and go type 1 with type 2, type 1 with type 3, type 1 with type 4, and then type 2 with type 3, and type 2 type 4, and then all kinds of possibilities. I don't do relationships that way. I do it, you understand yourself totally, what you want, what you need, what you desire, what hurts you, what elates you, and what you're seeking in a relationship. And then understanding what the other also wants and needs and is hurt by and desires in a relationship. And by doing that, we start to dance. Relationships are like a nice dance together. But we have to know ourselves, our abilities in dancing, and that of the other. Now, the Enneagram reveals so many layers of studying relationships. These are just some of them. We could talk by intelligence center by intelligence center. We could talk instincts by instincts. Could talk by harmonic groups, Hornevian groups, object relations, maturity levels, shadows, and ego problems, and type by type. All these are ways. Now, of course, we don't have time to cover all of this, so we'll just cover 2 or 3 of the main ones: the intelligence centers, the subtypes, and maybe touch a bit about type by type. If you have any question as I present, please just put it in the chat, and we will acknowledge it immediately. You don't have to wait until the end. But just don't raise your hand in the camera. As I said, I hardly see any of you moving. It's like everyone is frozen. So I prefer just to see it in the chat. So let's start with intelligence centers. So the Enneagram basically breaks down a human being into 3 intelligence centers: a thinking brain, a feeling, emotional brain, and a sensing action brain. The action brain is the place of mobilization, the place of movement. It cares most about boundaries, autonomy, personal space. It's always reacting to the moment. It's living the now. It's reacting to the now. And its main problems are with anger and boundaries. I call the gut center and the gut types, the world of the mountains. There's always this anger, this movement, this hitting, this stubbornness. And there's always some kind of push and push back. It's like the Rocky Mountains where there are always sharp edges, slamming the doors, high reactivity in the shape of movement. And the movement comes fast. And then the second center is the emotional brain. This is all about relationships. The emotional brain cares most about how I relate to you and how I see you, and how you relate to me and how you see me, and the power of the bond and the relationship between us. So image is very important. Value is very important. And we seek to be seen and to be known for who we really are. Identity is very important. And this center is most affected by the energies of sadness and shame. That's why I call this the world of the oceans. It's very moody. Emotions can go up and then can go down. And if we are not present, we are also riding these waves up and down all the time. Usually when you're around emotional people, you're always checking what is the mood right now. And the mood can shift in a moment, just like the weather. And then we have the thinking brain. And the thinking brain is about analyzing the past and the present to create enough resources in the future. It's all about resources. Do I have now what will help me survive in the future? The reactivity is always in the head and may reflect outside or inside, but it's mostly controlled by anxiety, by fear, by expectation, by seeking option. We're seeking strategies for survival in the future. So this is reacting to the now, the sensing brain. This is reacting to the past, mostly the emotional brain and the relationships. And this is seeking the future. So if you look at, so basically this is on the Enneagram symbol, it would look like this: body center, emotional center, thinking center. And these are controlled by anger, sadness and shame, anxiety. So just looking at that, let's reflect on these triads in relationships. So in a relationship, each center is like living in its own universe. One is focusing on the now and having everything in my environment right. So type 8, always looking at justice, power, who's more powerful, who's weaker, dominance. Now, always sensing the room, always sensing the environment, and always checking that no one is transgressing upon me, no one has the power to hurt me, no one is controlling me. Type 9 is also always sensing the environment, but sensing the environment, seeking peace, harmony, that everything is okay, that everything is calm, taking their time, and always trying to calm down the anger in the environment now. So once there's
Khaled,
a
do you
little
want to
bit
go
of
to the
energy
next
going
slide?
up,
Khaled?
and no, I'm gonna stay on this triads and relationships.
Okay.
This is what I have for this. Yeah.
Because we don't see the types.
Yeah,
we
actually,
just see the triangles. Okay.
no,
go ahead.
I'm not putting the types here. So I'll just even talk like this here now. So the 8, 9, and 1, and the 1 is also reacting to the now, but also scanning the environment for what is not in order. In order physically, in order in systemically, in order process-wise, in order morality, righteousness. So all three of them are always scanning the environment now for what they see is good and avoiding what they consider bad. As I said, very reactive. even reactive to each other. Then when we go to the heart types, they are also living in a different universe. They're always checking that the relationship is okay and that you see me as I want to be seen. So type 2 needs to feel that they are needed, needs to feel that they will not be abandoned, that they will not find themselves by themselves, that the other or the others in the relationship will not leave them. And basically, they do that by trying to make the others dependent upon them. They want to be indispensable in a relationship. So they create dependability. Type 3 want to be appreciated and valued. Type 3 in a relationship want to always feel that the other or others know my value, can see me, as if every time they look at me, I want them to go, wow. It's this wow they're looking for. In every moment, by the way, what I'm saying about the types here comes with us in every breath. It's just so automatic. We do not realize how automatic it is. It totally controls us. And type 4 want to be seen and understood. They want to be seen for who they are. They want to, the other as if to look at, scan them and just know everything about them. But the problem is they want parts of them to be hidden, yet at the same time, they want all of them to be revealed. So this is the paradox that 4s create in a relationship. I want you to see me and to know me, but I'm hiding parts of me from you that I don't want you to see, which I deem deficient. But then if you don't see these, then you don't know me, you don't see me. But I want you to know me and see me. So it's always about exposure. Understand me, feel me. Now, as you see, this is already very different than the requirements of the gut types. The gut types are reactive to the environment, not to the relationship. Then we go to the head types. And the head types are all about the future. Do I have enough resources now to satisfy my needs in the future? The 5 resources come in the shape of energy, time, and capacity and capability. Do I have enough energy to live this life? Do I have enough time to do all that is required from me? Do I have enough resources, powers, skills, money, so that I can survive in the future? So there's always this sense, I don't have enough, I cannot. The 6 is always scanning for what they need to be safe and secure in the future. They need a group. They need capabilities. They need someone to trust, and they need to be trusted by others. They need to feel there is loyalty, so that every now and then one of us will need the others, they will find them. No one is left behind. One for all and all for one. And the 7 needs options, to feel that they have enough options, that whenever they want to shift gear, change, whenever they feel they need something in the outside world, they have enough options to reach it. It's a sense of freedom. Freedom to be spontaneous, freedom to choose, freedom to reach whatever they want to reach when they want to reach it. So again, it's always a sense of resources for the future. So the problems that usually happen between the intelligence centers is focusing on a different reality, focusing on a different environment. And that's why once there is a problem that's happening in the relationship between the intelligence centers, it's as if we don't understand each other. The 8 might be very angry that something is not happening right now as it should be. And then the 2 feels that the 8 is angry and sad, so they go in to support them and help them and make them know that they are there for them, which irritates the 8. You don't see the problem. You're just focusing on me. You're just emotional. There is something that has to be done now. So one is on actions, one is on emotions. And then the head types are planning, where is the problem here? What do we need to gather? What do we need to prepare for? So basically, in short, the first thing to realize in relationships is, are we talking from the same brain or are we talking from different brains? Now, each one of these intelligence centers has its areas of power and its areas of weakness. And it's very important when we want to heal a relation or a problem that we use the intelligence center required for the healing. So when your fiance or your girlfriend or boyfriend leaves you and you have a heartache, you have a heartbreak, which center do you need to talk to? Which center do you need to heal? Which center do you need to work with so that you can come out of this situation in the most, let's say, in the most beneficial and the least hurting way? You need to talk to the heart. You need to stay with the emotions. You need to sit with them. You need to heal your hurting heart. But many people escape the pain of the heart by jumping to the gut or to the head. Now, this is not healing. This is distracting. So you run to the mall, you go shopping, you go watch a movie, you go play any kind of sport. All that is using the other intelligence centers to avoid focusing on the center that is hurting. You have an exam and you need to study and you're really bored, so you go to eat. Again, using a wrong intelligence center to distract from the center that you should be working on. We even see it in spiritual practices. So if you are in the gut's problem is a continuous sense of action. And it's the action that makes them feel alive. Even the 9, there's always this irritation in the body. So to heal your problems in the gut, you need practices that create a sense of stillness in the body, like lots of yoga. You create a very strange pose, a pose that might be stretching you out, and then you say still. It teaches us to calm the body and still the body down. The emotional center, the heart center, is a relational center. Ironically, many times we can heal these relational problems coming from the heart by learning to be comfortable in solitude, to be comfortable with ourselves, to be able to be with me. I and me, and that's all I need. Then when I'm in a relationship with another, I'm not now in need for finding the respect and the value and be seen by the other, because I am already in that relationship with myself. So now I can reach out to the other as the other is. There's no longer fixations and pains in the relation. I'm not relating to you for myself. I can now relate to you for the sake of the relationship and for the sake of you and for the sake of a collective humanity that is healthy in their relationships. So solitude is a very important practice for the heart types and the capacity to be with myself. As we said, the gut types, the capacity to be still. Because once the body is not still, I will bring it out. The anger, I will bring it out into my relationships. either with aggressiveness or with passive aggressiveness. A lot of passive aggressiveness comes from the gut. And the head types are always in this continuous buzz in the head. And the buzz in the head is always jumping into the future, which many times doesn't allow the head types to see the present transparently. They have to create all kinds of scenarios that they overlay on the present picture. So we say that the head types require a practice of silence and serenity in the head, some kind of soberness. So they're not lost in their thoughts, lost in their fears, lost in their anxieties. No, they are sober to the relationship as it is now. So again, each one of these is a huge topic by itself, how to practice stillness for the 8, 9, and 1, how to practice solitude and being with myself and loving myself for the 2, 3, and 4, and how to practice this serenity and sobriety in the head so that I can relate without anxieties. So I want you to have a little practice, and this practice, we will build up upon it. So we're not going to do it now in groups or in breakout rooms or anything. The first practice for now basically is, as you are, without going out into groups, I just want you to think of an important relationship in your life that you have either had and it finished, or you still have now, and that you know that it faces a recurring problem. I want you to imagine this relationship, bring it up. And as we talk, and as I bring up all the different topics, as I said, today I'll just scan very quickly through some of the areas where we can have relationship problems. As I go through these, I want you to reflect on that correlation that you're focusing on. So not to be talking just about everything. This will help you integrate what I'm talking about. So I'll just give you now 2 minutes in silence, no breakout rooms, just everyone with themselves, and bring to your head the relationship that you're going to focus on tonight, and maybe the few patterns that are happening in that relation. It could be something ongoing, which is better, or a relation that was in the past and finished, but it was really dear to you and you want to know what happened there. So let's take 2 minutes of silence so everyone recalls that. Okay, so I hope everyone has recalled what they want to focus on. And if you know the type of the other person in the relationship, that's excellent. If not, don't think about it too much. Just try to bring it out from what we are saying. So if you know your type and your center and you're not sure about the other person, the first thing that comes to mind, apply it. Don't think about it too much. Otherwise, you'll get lost into it. And it'll get even tougher maybe with the following topics. So any questions about the triads before I move on, about the intelligence centers? Okay, great. So let's move to the instincts. And again, I will share the screen. So instincts in relationships. Now, as you know, we have 3 main instincts, what we call the self-preservation, the sexual, and the social. And some people have given them different names, but I tend to agree with these 3 as the main, as the best names for these 3 instincts. The self-preservation focuses most on their physical needs, their comfort, their safety, their health, their domesticity, and feeling a home and a place that can take care of them. They're very practical. They like to be simple. It's all about preserving this body and preserving whatever benefits this body now. Remember, all instincts are in the gut. So they're all about the body and life energy. Self-preservation tends to be the most grounded, the least that likes sudden changes. They want predictability. They don't mind repeating the same stuff if they know that that will keep them safe. Now, again, these are tendencies, and they are highly affected by how much you have of the other instincts, because we have all instincts. We cannot be without any instinct. It's just different ratios between them. Usually, we either have one instinct that is very, very high and dominant, or we have one instinct that is very, very low and blind. It's either or. It's not usually both. So if you have one very high, then the other two are close to each other down. If you have one very low, then the other two are usually close to each other up. I'm not going to go into that. That's a big topic by itself. But it's very important you try to understand your dominant or your blind, and better, of course, if you know both, which is what we call the stack, the highest, the medium, and the lowest. The second instinct, which is, let's say, on the opposite pole of the self-preservation, this is what we call the sexual instinct. The sexual instinct is about life force, about flair. Going on. I need to stimulation. I need enthusiasm. I need to attract and be attracted. I need to repel and be repelled from. I need to merge. Sexual instinct takes risks, seeks resonance. Sexual instinct is about both of us together are one. I want us to know everything about each other. No boundaries. Everything is revealed. So sexual instinct goes out. Self-preservation comes in. I like to talk about even in the universe, these instincts exist in everything. So when you look at the Big Bang, this great inflation at the Big Bang, at the start of the universe, this is the sexual energy. I exist. And it is only be balanced by gravity, which holds back everything from just going out and destroying itself. These two opposites are like the sexual and the self-preservation. The sexual going out into the world, spreading themselves thin, and the self-preservation saying, no, 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 come here, hold on, that's too much. So that's the expansive force and the gravity. And the balance of these two creates the systems of the universe, the galaxies, the solar systems, and that's the social. How between the self-preservation and sexual, we can create social systems, create bonds, read each other, know how close and far we are from each other, adapt to the system, adapt to the requirements of the people around me, affiliate, belong, be aware of how I am seen by others. And I either adapt, or if I'm powerful enough, ask them to adapt to me. So I say the social instinct acts in a way of, I want to belong. After I belong, I want to create bonds. After I create bonds, I want to have rank. So I want to belong to this group. I wish I was, let's say, in Mensa, this intelligence group. So if I'm in Mensa now, that I'm one of those intelligent people. Usually organizations like this are built on a very strong social power. Now that I belong, I want to create bonds. I want to know who's around, read the cues, see what these people do, how they dress, how they talk. So now I am one of them. I didn't just belong to them. No, I am one of them. I'm a core person there. And now, even better, I might even want to have a rank inside Mensa. So now I'm not just affected by them. I now start to affect them myself. It's like levels of belonging and bonding. So problem that happens with social instinct is people confuse it with socializing. It has nothing to do with socializing. Social instinct, people can be very shy, can actually like not to be with people, because being with people is overwhelming, because they have to know what is needed by everyone around them and adapt to it. Social instinct usually don't like too many people around them. 15, 20 maximum. Beyond that, they get overwhelmed. It's actually the sexual energy that likes to go out and socialize and know people and be in big groups, because bigger groups means more people to attract and be attracted by. But that's not the social. The social wants smaller groups to bond to connect to be with, to dress like, to talk like. So this is usually, in my experience, one of the biggest confusions that people have between sexual and social. That's why many people put themselves in the wrong box here. Just to give an example, if you're entering, let's say there is this big party at work, and they put the people in 3 groups. You have the workers, and then the employees, and then the managers, and maybe in front, the executives, all sitting for some kind of big event. When the self-preservation enters, the first thing they will look for is, where's the air conditioner? Where's the safety exit? Where is the comfortable chair? They will be looking, where's the food? They'll be looking for these practical things that keep them safe. And if they have a good social insight, they will do that within their group. If they have a very weak social instinct, they might do it anywhere. So they don't care as long as they're close to the exit and close to the, and in a place where it's not too hot or not too cold and safe. The sexual instinct will go and sit. This is a chance. Everyone in the company is here. I will immediately go and sit beside that person I've been trying to reach out and to get to know, my friend, the girl I want to flirt with. I will just go and find someone and sit beside them, and I might be in a totally wrong place. But that's not my concern. My concern is someone that I'm attracted to or I want to get to know. In a party, sexual instinct might find someone else, and both of them take a side and talk the whole evening together, not even realizing what's happening in the party. And the party ends and they're still enjoying this one-on-one bond in this talk that has totally, everything else faded out. In movies, when someone sees someone and then everything else fades out. This is this very sharp image that happens in the sex, in the sexual instinct. Again, it's not about sexual act. It's about life force, energy. The social will enter and will immediately realize, without being told, will immediately see how this is organized. These are the workers, these are the employees, these are the managers, these are the executives. And will immediately go and sit with their group. And if they are a bit of an ambitious social instinct, they will most probably sit all the way in the front of their group towards the higher group. So if it's a manager, he will sit all the way in front and maybe even push his chair a little bit front so that, it's like as if he's with the executives now. So he's not out of his place, but he's like seeking to be with the higher group. Again, of course, this is all caricature. I'm just like trying to give it in an exaggerated way so that we get the sense of these 3 instincts. The energy of the social instinct is usually cool. It changes depending on the requirement. We say the sexual energy is hot and the self-preservation is warm. Now, all of them have relationships. And this is the big mistake that sometimes happens, is that people think one-on-one relationships has to be sexual. Not at all. It just looks very different. So a sexual one-on-one, we just said that. I'll just see you, I'll talk to you, and that's it. The rest of the world falls out. The relations, I see people as digital. So I'm talking to Valdo. We are concerned about something and we're just focusing and I don't see anyone else. And then somehow we're finishing the conversation. Lisa asks me a question. I turn to Lisa and Valdo is gone. He's not in my view anymore. I'm now with Lisa. I'm talking to Lisa. I'm engaging with Lisa. And then my Cody calls my name and I suddenly look at Cody and I forgot that I was even with Lisa. It's like on off. relations are on off and they're very sharp and very focused. The self-preservation relation is very different. The caricature I give for this is sometimes, you know, in soap operas and movies, when they bring these two elderly people that have been living with each other for 30, 40 years, sitting on a couch, under a blanket, in front of the TV, holding the remote, and just bickering with each other day and night, making fun of each other, and the daughter comes in and your mama did this to me, oh, your papa, he doesn't, and you feel that they're all the time as if they're fighting, but actually they have become so bonded that they're so much affected by each other. If the daughter takes the mother, tells her, Mama, I want you with me to go shopping, the father the whole evening is just going around himself. He cannot wait until Mama is back so that they can bicker with each other again under the blanket. There's this sense of warmth, togetherness. And usually if one of them passes away, the other just catches up immediately. It's in the self-preservation. It's not about a sexual flair and instinct. No, it's about we are together forever. We're just comfortable together. Maybe we'll never have sex again. We haven't had sex in 5 years, but that's fine because I'm comfortable with you and you're comfortable with me. Very different relation. The social bond is like me and you create a team. Me and you create a gang. We represent each other in front of the world. Remember Bonnie and Clyde? Bonnie and Clyde was a social relation. I have your back and you have my back. And usually in sexual relationships, they care a lot about the family of the other side or the status of the other person or what you bring to my life and what I bring to your life. So in a sexual relation, all that matters is love. We love each other and everything else will work itself out. In a self-preservation, do we have a nice house? Is it warm? Do we have a good salary? Do we have money to spend on yourself? Do we have enough food? It doesn't have to be fancy. None of this has to be fancy, but we have to have our basic requirements. In a social relation, small, do you represent me well? Do I represent you well? Can I take you out and show you to my friends and to my family? Or am I too embarrassed? This is more of a concern. When we break up, it's the same thing. The thing that worries the person most, if they are if they are self-preservation and a breakup happens, how am I going to live now? Who's going to take the furniture? Who's going to take the house? Do we need another house? Can I afford it? Do I need money? Who's going to spend on the kids? Is there enough? It's like more of the practical aspects of the breakup. The social actually might go into, oh, it's so embarrassing. We were so in love. I don't want my friends to know, especially like in an Eastern culture like ours. Sometimes a woman might have a divorce and her friends don't know that she had a divorce until she's inviting them for her next marriage because she was too embarrassed. What will they say about me? So that's a very common social word. What are the others going to say about me? Sexual will be more like, oh, we were so in love. What went wrong? Where did it all go wrong? And will I ever love again? You were the one for me. So you see how the language is so different and the concerns are so different. And when we look at relationships from an instinctual perspective, I personally say that this is one of the most important aspects that we need to understand in a relationship. If I were to choose just one topic among all the topics that I showed in this slide here, if I only had time for one topic, it would be the instincts. Most of our relationship problems happen because of the instinctual differences. So let's demonstrate what I mean here. Everyone is supposed to know their instinctual stack. So I want you to reflect for a moment, if you don't know what your instinctual stack is, and based on what I just said, just imagine what it is. Now, again, these things, try to take them fast. Don't overthink, because you have all three instincts. So which one do you think is your strongest and which one do you think is your weakest? And don't overthink it now. We usually spend like a year and a half with people until they're really sure about it. But for the sake of the exercise today, just define your instinctual stack. You have a dominant, a secondary, and a weakest. Now, your partner in the relationship also has a dominant, a secondary, and a weakest. And this is when we start talking about instinctual scenarios. So what do I mean by an instinctual scenario? Let's say that your dominant instinct is the same as the dominant instinct of your partner. And your weakest instinct is the same as the weakest instinct of your partner. So you both have identical stacks. What are the advantages and disadvantages of such a relationship? Can anyone guess? You can raise your hand, you can just open your mic and guess. Anyone?
Boredom.
Okay, boredom because we're exactly the same. Okay. Anyone else? So boredom is a disadvantage, I guess you mean. What's the advantage?
Understanding.
Perfect. Perfect. So the main advantage of this relationship is understanding. We both seek the same thing. If we're both self-preservation, we're like that couple on the couch under the blanket. If we're both sexual, we're both always looking for new experiences and let's travel and let's go and do this new thing. Let's go skydiving. Let's do something new in our life. There's always something new that's needed. If we're both social, we both care about how the group sees us. We care about creating the same group, our friends, our family. Usually when we travel, we like to travel with many people with us. We have the same things and we understand why we want that. Actually, the biggest disadvantage of such a relationship is that there is one domain in life that we are both totally blind to. So let's say we're both totally blind to the self-preservation instinct. That means the sexual and the social are both up here. So we like to enjoy our life with friends. We travel, we go out on dates, we go out on romantic time, we have romantic times together. We like to play, we like to buy the things that we like. And then suddenly, oh, the mortgage, our loan, we need to pay the kids money tomorrow. Oh, there's nothing in the fridge to eat. Oh, we don't have health insurance. And the main core aspects that ground life, we're forgetting. Or if the weakest is the social instinct. Usually if a couple, both of them are weak in the social instinct, these are usually the couples that lots of rumors go out on. They don't care about the social norms. So people start talking about them that they're weird. And they don't even realize what's being said about them. You know, and usually people talk about them in any negative word. Sometimes the people themselves don't understand. You know, it's like rumors. Oh, the people are communists. Or we have an old movie in Egypt here where one person wanted to give a bad reputation about another person. And they're all like very simple people. They're just simple workers. So he said, you know, guys, this guy is democratic. And all of them, he's democratic? Oh my God, that must be so bad. You know, Masonic. All these words usually don't have a weak sexual instinct because they do things very different to everyone else, and they don't even realize that they're doing the wrong thing. They're dressing wrong, they're talking wrong, they're acting wrong, and they both don't know. And usually both are weak in the sexual instinct, then this is a code when it comes a boring relationship. But neither of them cares about any kind of change. Life can just keep on repeating itself, doing the same thing, the same. You're not bored, but then it's risk-taking. None of them is relationship. So now that you understand how it works, so one person's dominant is the other person's secondary. The first person's secondary is the other person's weakest, and the first person's weakest is the other person's dominant. Who's going to take a shot at it? I have things on the chat I see. Let me check. Okay, so Martin, okay, go ahead.
Well, I would perceive personally that there would be not much harmony for me.
So where's the main problem in this relationship?
Well, for me, there would be a lack of intensity.
Okay, so lack of intensity, yeah. So you mean you would have sexual, social self-preservation, and let's say the other would have your sexual is their weakest, your self-preservation is their dominant, and your social is their second. Where would be the main problem in this relation? Can you tell? The main problem is this: the dominant versus the weakest. Because what you want in the relationship is totally belittled and looked down upon by the partner.
Yeah.
And every time you start acting out your dominant instinct and showing your dominant interests, the other labels you, blames you, makes fun of you, belittles you, and doesn't want to share with you. So if your dominant is self-preservation and the other is the weakest self-preservation, they're always telling you, you're boring, you're just saving money, you don't want to go out, you don't want to change. If your dominant is social and the other's weakest is social, they'll always be telling you, you're just showing off, you're a hypocrite, you never do what you want to do, you just care about the others. If your dominant is the sexual and the other's weakest is the sexual, there's never this intensity in this relationship. There's never this sharing. There's never this risk-taking. You're crazy. What is this? You don't calculate what you're doing. And this becomes the very intense part of the relation. Let's say this last example, if one has dominant sexual and the other is the weakest sexual, if the dominant sexual does not find or satisfy their instinct in the relation, because this weakest will find it very hard to satisfy the sexual intensity requirements of the sexual dominant, they very much might start to seek to satisfy this instinct elsewhere. They love their partner, they're with them, they don't want to leave them, but they have this very powerful energy inside them not being satisfied. Instincts always cannot fight back instincts. We can nurture them, we can calm them, we can satisfy them in healthy ways, but if our instincts, they will win back. Look at places where celibacy is required. Usually these are the places that have the most corrupt sexual habits. Can't always explode in your face. So this is usually the biggest problem in such a relation. Now, this partner will not have much problem, the one on the right, because their dominant instinct is understood by this person. The secondary is close. I can come be with really have a problem with you here. So I'm saying that my dominant is satisfied somehow by your secondary. My secondary isn't really that important. So even if you're weak, I will satisfy it a bit and that's it. And my weakest, you annoy me with what you want with your dominant, but it really doesn't bother me too much. So this one on the right can manage the relation. It's this one on the left that will go crazy in the relation. It's going to be a lot of pressure on this side. And we need the one on the right to understand the needs of the one on the left and try to help them satisfy these needs as much as possible. Okay, I guess you get it. I have two more scenarios. So now this scenario, who can speak for this scenario? Anyone want to try?
That's what I just wrote about in the chat.
Ah, you did? I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Let me check.
No,
the
it's
chat.
okay. It's just that absolutely upside down, but the sexual in the middle.
We share. Okay. You said because my dominant is social and it's Cleo's least, I try not to undermine his self-preservation. We share sexual as middle, which helps. Exactly. Now, this relationship really needs the partners to love each other, because this relationship can be very challenging. What I need most in life, you don't care about, and what you need most in life, I don't care about. What really holds us together is the secondary instinct. This is the power in this relationship. So we need to invest in this secondary to balance us, and we really need love to work on what the other wants. It's only love that can help it. Really caring to keep this relationship functional. Because now we understand that the other sees the world and wants from the world something totally different than myself. So this relation, as again, can be the most challenging, but can be the most rewarding. If it works out, it's extremely rewarding. Otherwise, it's extremely frustrating. You know, no pain, no gain. Well, here you have a lot of pain and a lot of gain. It's a very double-edged sword. So, which do you think is, again, nothing is guaranteed, but the relationship that, let's say, requires the least work from the instinctual perspective? The most probable to succeed. How would the stacks look like? I don't want to say the healthiest, because it can still be very unhealthy, but it has a bigger chance to work out. Needs the least work from this perspective, at least.
Seems like the shared is the dominant and the second and weakest can be flipped, right?
Excellent.
Because
excellent,
then there is
Martin.
complementary.
Perfect. So when the dominant is shared, we both see the world in the same way. We go out to it and face it in the same way. We have the same needs, the same wants, the same desires. So the dominant is the same. We complement. We have the same interests. We have the same. We want the same things. We can really enjoy the same types of activities together in the world. We understand each other. I understand your concerns. You understand mine, because we both have the same dominant instinct. And then what you are weak at, I support you in. So if you both share the sexual up here, then if your blind is the self-preservation, I take care of that. And if my blind is the social, you take care of that. And this can be the healthiest, at least from this perspective. Now that you have your relationship that you have worked on, and I think it's already 9:20, so I'm not going to give any more talk. Actually, before the breakout, I'll give one more topic, just one more. because it's also very important in relation. Is that okay, Martin? 10 more minutes? Or should we go to the breakout now?
No, absolutely.
Okay. Because I promised not to go too much overtime today.
Well, we have still 40 minutes. So.
Okay, excellent. So let's look at one more topic. And they call it in the Enneagram world, the harmonic harmonic groups. But it's basically how I deal with conflict and difficulty. How do I manage conflict and difficulty? So this now is not about when everything is fine. When everything is fine, there's a problem in front of me that I face. We say the types, the Enneagram types, break down into 3 ways of dealing with conflict. The positive outlook group, they do not want to see problems. So everything is fine. So I say the 7, everything is okay. This is the best thing that happened to me. I'm fine now. Life couldn't be better. Whatever situation happens, they have to convince themselves. 9, a conflict is coming like this. They just bend like this. The conflict passes and they get up again. And it's gone. There's no, just go to sleep. Sleep on it. It'll pass. Everything's okay. So the 9s just want to drift over problems. And the 2s, come on, let's have a meal. Let's go out together. Let's be friends. It's okay. So these are positive outlook. They always try to minimize events, minimize conflict, shift, reframe, look at it from another way. You see, there's no problem. Everything is okay. And then you have the competency group. How do these deal with conflicts and problems? With competence. They need to analyze it and understand what is the right thing to do now, now. The 5, so they freeze, they move back, and they start to analyze, and they take time in taking a decision and setting a strategy to deal with the current problem. This is the group that has to deal with intensity, no delay. So can you imagine now a problem happening at work, let's say, and the boss is a type 8, there's a problem, we have to solve immediately. And then the type 5 says, yes, I understand. Just give me 3 months. I will analyze all the variables. I will make a plan, and I will create a project. And within another 3 months, this problem will be solved. And then he goes, what are you saying? Well, I'm telling you, we have a disaster. And you don't feel, you don't understand, you don't care. And the type 9 is sitting with them. Come on, everyone, calm down. It's going to be okay. It's fine. The intensity types see the competency types as slow and incompetent. And they see the positive outlook types as very superficial and not caring. I used to have a 7 friend. She used to irritate all her friends because when someone comes to her and tells her, I have a problem, I need to tell you about this. No, there's no problem. Everything is fine. You know, if we just go out, it's going to be okay. And the other gets irritated. And I would tell her, when someone tells you I have a problem, they have a problem. Even if you think you don't have a problem, out of respect for their emotions, for the person in front of you, respect that they have a problem. Sit with them. Even if you don't have the capacity for pain and emotions, ask them, tell them, this is as much as I can take now. I understand you have a big problem, but I really cannot go any deeper than that now. Give me some time and I will come back to you again. A 2. Yes, I know you're very generous and you like us to eat together, but unless we solve this problem, we can really never have a strong bond with each other. So The intensity types see the positive outlook types as not caring, and see the competency types as very slow, frozen. Hello, do you know what we're talking about here? And the other's just thinking. One actually cooling down and becomes even more intense. And this more slow, wounded. And the positive outlook, where are you going? Come here, understand. Now, which of these three groups is the most, let's say, is the best, let's say, I'm afraid I'm super tired. Which of these three groups is the best really at solving problems? Which one of these groups is the one that all of us need to really be good at?
Competency.
Okay, who agrees?
All three.
All three. Yeah, that's a trick question. I'm sorry, Cody. It's all three. All three of them are needed in a balanced way. Actually, in relationships, to have healthy relationships, we should be able to use each one of these when needed. Some problems need us to cool down and think and create a strategy. Some problems need immediate reaction. And some problems are not really problems. Okay? I usually give lots of examples here, but again, for the sake of time, I mean, I let you imagine it, that how everything has its own place. Okay, let's give just one example for each. So if a company is being threatened by another company that's entering into its market and the sales are dropping and the product isn't selling well enough, which one usually is the best in this case? That would be the competency. We need to analyze, create a strategy, see where our powers are, our weaknesses are, Martin was talking about a SWOT analysis, make a SWOT analysis, do something. And this is usually the competency groups are best at this. I have seen intensity type person who was running a very successful company. And when this exact situation happened, and when his competency executives wanted to slow down, he fired them all. He took very rash decisions and he wasted a huge amount of money and the company went bankrupt because he wanted to solve the problem immediately. While let's say in the meeting with that intensity type boss and the competency and positive outlook executives, and we are discussing the problem, and suddenly a fire erupts in the building. And the people start to panic, and the competency says, no, slow down. Let's bring out now the plan of the building, and let's see which routes and which options we have to get out of the building. If we go out from this direction, maybe, of course, they're dead. They have to just jump out immediately. This is an intensity reaction. While many problems in our life are really problems created in our head or in our emotions, that really, if you just sleep on it in the morning, everything will be fine. Especially problems that don't concern us. So in Egypt, for example, these days, and in Turkey, where Martin is, there's a huge deflation in the currency. And people start talking politics and economics and worrying themselves and fighting with each other, and families split. They can't really do anything about it. They should just manage their finances and try to live a good life, a decent life. They're not going to change the world politics. They're not going to fight Putin or save the Ukrainians. They can barely live. So it's like worrying yourself with problems that are not your problems. It's going to be fine. We've lived through so many deflations before. And it's going to be okay. And we just have to find a better way, manage our incomes. So all three are very important. Again, you can imagine now if we have differences in competency, in harmonic groups, harmonic from how we create harmony, how we harmonize our life, how you can create harmony in your life if we have different approaches and we are stuck to them. We can really irritate each other tremendously. So we need to understand the other, especially if they are from the phonic groups. Are they clear? There's something in the chat. Intensity is needed. Yeah, Dario was answering the previous question. Yeah. So, any questions before I give you the breakout room exercise? No?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay. So, Martin, you will manage, I see you manage already the groups. Basically, what you're going to do, you're going to go into the groups. One of you in turn will discuss with the other that main relation that they thought about earlier in the session today, and they will start analyzing it from these three aspects. From the intelligence center, they will say, I am a gut type, and that person is most probably a heart type. That's why I was always talking about action and boundaries and autonomy and justice and getting things right, where they will always caring, you don't see me, you don't understand me, you don't appreciate me, you don't love me, and we were never relating on that. Or we were both from the same center, and what advantages and disadvantages that created. Because even from the same center doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect. And then you move to the instincts. I think, or I believe my instinctual stack is XYZ, while most probably my partner is, I'm not really sure. I know you're all not sure, but most probably it's XYZ, YZS, X. And again, I reflect on our relationship. I always wanted to do this and they didn't like it. They were more concerned about this. And this is really what's creating harmony or tension in our relation from the point of view of instincts. And then as harmonic groups, I am a competency, my partner is an intensity. That's why anger is just intensity to solve the problem thing. And they tell me I'm not shouting, I just want to solve this. And then we start blaming each other and then we go nowhere. So again, analyze the relation from the from the harmonic groups and what advantages and disadvantages that brings into the relationship. Okay, so not one person talking all the time and then the enters and then the other shares the centers, then maybe the second shares the instincts, the first shares the instincts, and then the first shares the harmonics, the second, so that you are sharing and you can even have some discussion about some of the topics together.
And if you want to stop here and join our 26-week training where we look at these and many other aspects that I will show you in a moment, then the next training starts on September 29th, 2022. And we have 2 sessions every week that have covered the same module. The other option is starts on Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. That's our training. And at integralrelationship.com, you can find more information and sign up for the new training. And we will also have a workshop, a 5-day workshop in Ava near Istanbul and the Black Sea, a little beautiful resort village from May 17 to 21st, 2023. So here is I'm going to show you the whole integral relationship model real quickly. And I started to break it down into initially 14 modules, but then as you will see in a moment, some of them, we have multiple modules to cover these elements. So we start out with the 4 dimensions of our being, which you can experience in this moment by focusing inside in your inner awareness, what is alive in you right now, and your physical body, right? How does your physical body feel in this moment? That's the individual interior and exterior dimension of you. And then this interior dimension also has an extension into the pluralistic, into the collective, into the outside. Right now, you hopefully will try to understand what's going on inside of me. What are my thoughts? How do we communicate? What language do we use? Do you share these ideas that I presented so far? Do you not share them? What is our shared we space? What is your culture? How do you communicate your interior, and how do you receive and resonate with the interior of other people? And also your physical body has, of course, an exterior physical environment, like the clothes you're wearing right now, the air that I'm breathing, that you're breathing, your food, your home, your job, your money, your modes of transportation, etc. So these are the 4 dimensions that are all necessary to be human. And often when we get attracted to another person, we're not really looking at all these 4 dimensions. And that can create problems in relationships if these 4 dimensions are not balanced and harmonized. So that's what we practice in the first module. Then we have 4 modules total where we look at the levels of consciousness development, the complexity of development, and also trauma and that is created at the first 4 levels, the different forms of trauma and how to heal this trauma. So that's a new part I integrated into training. And how people who are at different levels or the same levels of consciousness development, how their relationships unfold and where there are struggles, and why it is often difficult to resolve conflict if you're in relationship with someone who's at an earlier or later level than you are. It's not impossible, but so we're gonna look at the challenges there and the possibilities as well. And we also look intensely on how this growth is happening when the challenges that we face in life, and specifically in our relationships, are greater than the tools that we have available to deal with the challenges. So let's say you're at the mythic level, the challenges are down here, everything works well, but if the challenges increase and your skills and tools that you have available to deal with these challenges are lower than the challenges, then the only way to deal with them is through transformation to the next higher level. When you hit a wall, as we say, right? I hit a wall in my life, and then this transformation usually takes a few years to the next higher level. Then life will be great for a while, and then you may hit a wall again and get to the next level. So we also look at this transcend and include, that the earlier levels get partly transcended, but also partly included. And we look how feminine, or often females, have a tendency towards growing by transcending and including, and males or more masculine people have a tendency to transcend and exclude, and both of them have their problems. And we're going to look at the healthy aspects that should be included on each level and limited views that should be transcended. And this often leads to males perceiving females as more complex if they include a lot of these previous levels, and females often find men somewhat not so evolved, let's say, because they exclude a lot of the earlier levels. So we will explore that as well. Then we have 3 modules in communication, where we look at, what do we perceive first, inside and outside of our body, thoughts, feelings, needs. And then we start speaking, and how we express ourselves is mainly determined, and also what we perceive, by our level of consciousness. And then this is perceived by a hearer who has also his or her level of consciousness, and then they try to reconstruct in their mind what you were trying to express in the first place. And so we look at the complexity of communication from all these different levels of consciousness development. We start with level 6 communication, nonviolent, compassionate communication based on Marshall Rosenberg's communication model. And then we talk about communication at the first 6th level, and how people at each of these levels communicates first of all, has different needs and then communicates these needs differently. So we call that need-based communication. We also integrate trauma triangle, Karpman's trauma triangle, and then how we can transform this to David Emerald's empowerment triangle, which this would be the magic second level predominantly, and then this would be the orange rational level. And then we also have one module for how people at the integral and transpersonal level communicate with people in first-year consciousness and among themselves. Then we make several differentiations around gender. So we're not only looking at male, female, men, women, which also helps us to gain a better understanding about gender fluidity and gender identities and the whole LGBTQ subject. And so this training, even though I often talk in male-female context, we had gays and lesbians and gender fluid people who found that training also quite helpful, even though I have no firsthand experience. So forgive me if I sometimes fall into these patterns, or they may be perceived as stereotypes, but I'm very well aware of the biological differences and what are learned gender roles. So that's the first differentiation. And that leads us to understanding the fear-shame downward spiral that males often don't understand, that then when they withdraw or disconnect emotionally, specifically, are no longer romantic in a way, that their female partner may go into fear response. And then she will try to reconnect with him, and she doesn't understand that often is perceived by the male. It's not what she's really doing, but perceived as the male as shaming. And then he withdraws further when what she needed was that he leans into the relationship and reconnects with her and makes her feel safe. And so this creates this fear-shame downward spiral that we learn to avoid, and also we have a beautiful exercise in working ourselves back up to the top, to the loving romance phase. And this is based on a book called How to Improve Your Marriage Without Talking About It by Steve Stosny and Patricia Love, to give them the credit. And we already looked at this dynamic here and the feminine masculine polarity. So we have multiple exercises around how to really feel the feminine and masculine and learn to embody the healthy aspects. Then we have a module where we explore 5 stages of spiritual development, which is we do a subject-object meditation where we learn to differentiate the witnessing self or the subject from the objects that are perceived and witnessed, and strengthen this witnessing consciousness so that we can disidentify, not dissociate or repress, but disidentify from, in the first level, the gross material and physical, and then integrate it when it is differentiated. So there's no integration without differentiation. And then we go to the subtle level, basically the mind, our thoughts. So we can disidentify from our thoughts and no longer have desires, attachment, hatred, delusion on that level. And then to the mystical, formless, some people call it a feeling, experiential, inner experience level, or outer experience, connectedness, and not witness itself. And then the non-dual that integrates all the previous levels. And then we will also explore this, what is called the Wilber-Combs lattice, that Ken Wilber and Alan Leslie Combs developed together, that this stage spiritual development can appear at any vertical level of consciousness development. And then I applied the same idea to our sexual development, the 5 stages of repressed fucking, having sex, making love, and sacred sexuality. And so we have a wonderful meditation and practice to explore what level you and your partner are in your sexual expression. And then the next module is about the anima animus complex development, which I already talked about. Then we have one module for the 5 love languages, which is quality time, gifts, acts of service, and touch. And then we explore the 9 types of the Enneagram, And each type combination has some parts where the relationship is harmonious and synergetic and driving, but also trouble spots. And there's no combination that's particular blessed or doomed. And we also look at the 3 instinctual variants of the social instinct, the self-preservation instinct, and the intensity, they're called sexual instinct, where we want to have intense connection with other people that feel like a deep sexual experience, but it can be on an emotional or mental level primarily. It's just a metaphor, sexual intensity, attraction, sub-instinct, and we have all of them in us, but we have so like a predominant one, and it's really, really helpful to know what your partner's and your own instinctual variant is. And then we already looked at that as well. This is how we bring everything together in what I call the personality matrix, and then including the 4 dimensions of our being. And then we explore attachment styles and also the unconscious. So we have 2 modules there where we explore our shadow and false identity, or to be more precise, 5 forms of the unconscious, one of them being shadow. And then we have a very powerful exercise from the book Undefended Love by Chet Psarsis and Marlena Lyons, who were students, very still students of A.H. Almas, the Ridwan school, the diamond approach, which you may have heard of. And this exercise allows us to go through these different layers that prevent us from loving undefendedly because of our fears, fear being the opposite of love. So we first look at or experience our primary emotional reaction to our partner's reality. Then we feel into the underlying vulnerable, often unconscious feeling that is protected by this emotional fight, flight, freeze reaction, which then gets us in touch with our false belief about ourselves and then the underlying deepest fear. So you see these different layers that become more and more subtle. And then you get an affirmation about your true identity, which then allows you to heal your unconscious and parts of your trauma. So this is not depth trauma psychology, but in most emotional reactions that we have, couples can learn how to deal with them between them by doing this healing process, save a lot of money in couples therapy, their love and their connection, and prevent potential breakups if they are, at similar levels of development in here. So that's always the prerequisite also for this work. Then we look at borderline narcissistic and histrionic personality disorders, because often in spiritual communities and personal growth communities and groups and trainings, we see a higher than average amount of people with personality disorders who feel very drawn to empathetic, evolved people who are engaging in these groups and trainings and communities, and are often very unaware or totally unaware of personality disorders. And we're not diagnosing people there, but we're just bringing a basic awareness to what are the symptoms as outlined in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual, and have a conversation and 3 exercises around that. So it is not about being judgmental or becoming a diagnostician and diagnose people, but just to bring awareness to the dynamic. And for some people who have been or still are in relationships with people with personality disorders, we look at something called 22 stages of decline that these relationships are often go through. And then we look at Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of love, of the elements of intimacy, passion, and dependence, and the 8 forms of love, from non-love to integral love, that through certain lengths of the sides of this metaphorical triangle are experienced by each partner, and also 6 forms of dependence, from codependence to dependence to independence to interdependence to interbeing to interbecoming, and several phases of love that we go through, driven by hormones, from lust and desire to attraction, to romance, to the conflict phase, to the commitment phase. So that's one module. And we not only have, each partner doesn't only have one triangle, how they perceive the relationship, depending on their level of intimacy, passion, and dependence, but one for the actual reality, one for the projected ideals, and one for the intention of each of the partners. So this is just one couple here. So you can imagine when you're in a polyamorous relationship with more than one partner, 2 or 3 or 4 partners, then the complexity is multiplying and is exponential. And then, so like the last big part of the training is about purpose, as I described in my second book called Sex, Purpose, Love, which you see here. So the purpose part, the sex part is what we covered so far, understanding our gender and our humanity. And then the purpose part and how that impacts love. So that's the second book. And everything that's in there is in here as practices. So you can go right to the practice book. And if you want to learn more about the underlying theory, then you can also look into Sex, Purpose, Love and the hundreds of books that I drew from to put all of that together, if you want to really go deep into that. So purpose, I make a differentiation between 3 different purposes that we have. And we all living things live their biological purpose of eating, surviving, reproducing, seeking quality of life, forming groups, and compete and cooperate. It's called the biological imperative, is the technical term that you can look up at Wikipedia. And so we share that with all animals often, though we humans say, what is life all about? Well, here basically it is. And often parts of that are repressed in modern humans. And so traditionally, these biological driven relationships where we live our biological purpose, they're best lived and often then manifest in what I call transactional desire and transactional love, asymmetrical need-based, where the male has to first prove his reproductive capabilities to the females who he is attracted to, assuming she has good reproductive capabilities. And of course, he wants to have sex with her. And then when she receives, the providing and that he can take care of her and her children, she will offer him sex. And then if he wants, or if they both want a child, or sometimes it happens, of course, unintentionally or naturally before people figured out how this whole process works. And then for his power, his 3rd chakra, social status, power, protecting in exchange for her loving care, and his creativity in exchange for her feedback. And that's on the biological level. And then there is something I call transformational love and transformational purpose, which is basically understanding this matrix here, and that we can, in a relationship, or we need actually a relationship to learn, to heal, to grow, and to awaken without spiritual bypassing, growing by challenging each other, healing. We can only heal our relationship wounds in relationships and learning about how to become fully human in relationship. So that is the transformational purpose, to learn, to heal, to grow, and to awaken. I don't have a slide for that. And that helps us to make this exchange healthier and eventually then move to higher levels. So here you see the 7 chakras, and here are the levels of consciousness development. And I call this the chakra consciousness matrix, because obviously the more evolved you become, the later stages you move into consciousness development, the more complex and the more evolved the needs and the desires, but also the exchange between the chakras, this asymmetrical exchange becomes. And then some people then awaken to this desire, not only to live their biological purpose and share it, but also their transformational purpose. And that leads us to our transcendental purpose, where based on our natural talents, either for empathy, in cognitive intelligence, creativity, or kinesthetic capabilities. This is genetically predispositioned. And then after gestation, as our brain and our body develops, and then we develop skills, we usually have one or two strengths, either to be more creative in a sense, creating more beauty, or creating more truth, or creating more goodness, or creating more functionality. And we look at many different, at 4 different discovery methods, how you can get in touch with your purpose and then find your niche, like in my case, furthering the integral relationship vision by supporting singles and couples in co-creating healthy relationships. And since I only have like one strength, which I would say is goodness, and my secondary is functionality, intelligence, and creativity, I'm not so good in. Whatever your passion and purpose is, since you also have 1 or 2 strengths, you will feel attracted to a partner who shares your purpose but has different strengths. And then combining your strengths will create something what Barbara Marx Hubbard called suprasexuality. So like a new attraction that feels like sexual attraction, but it's really this desire to make the world a better place. And you align behind your transcendental purpose, but you bring different gifts, different capacities to the co-creation. And then that allows you to become true co-creators at a level of each 7 chakras. I'm not going to read all this. I may pause the video if you want to take a look at it. And then we have a module on soulmates, biological, transformational, and transcendental soulmates, how to identify them, how to attract them, how to define it first, and then identify and attract, and then co-create a soulmate relationship. So there is more than one soulmate potentially, and eventually you want to be with your biological, transformational, and transcendental purpose soulmate, all 3. But most people start out with biological, then they move on to a transformational soulmate or multiple transformational soulmates. There's often like serial dating, serial relationship on the transformational level. And then the transcendental, they're usually then lifetime partnerships, again, like my friends Alice and Alex Gray, for example, or Mitten and Deva Primal and other couples you may know who have this real shared purpose to create more beauty or more truth or more goodness or more functionality in the world. And then here we have the image that we looked at earlier, and now we understand a little better the purpose and the 4 dimensions at each level of the chakras, and the commitment, intimacy, and passion. And this really matters for the future of humanity. As we learned from Jürgen Habermas, traditionally males and females in the tribal stage, so that started 100,000 of years ago, formed couples and then communities, and out of these tribes, these communities, the systems, as Habermas calls it, of money, power, the media, etc., emerged in support of the family, the community, the tribe, the couple. And eventually, these systems became so powerful, as we experience today, that they're often controlling our life to an extent, but we're still somewhat shielded and less dependent on the system if we live in the context of a couple, family, community. And if we're single, then there is a high chance that the system will directly encroach on us as single males, females, and we potentially also become dependent on the system. So that's a criticism, this hyper-individualism. And David Brooks, my favorite journalist, talks a lot about the disintegration of friendships and families and communities. And then he also says at the end, and I have no real solution. And so I think the integral relationship model provides the solution how we can return to maintaining our wholeness and partialness in healthy relationships. And so Habermas, I just want to read this, Will Gris wrote that this individualization, right, and this breakdown of communities that we see here in this image leads to decrease in shared meanings and mutual understandings, erosion of social bonds, disintegration of communities, increase in people's feelings of helplessness and lack of belonging, the consequent unwillingness of people to take responsibility for their actions and for social phenomenon, and destabilization and breakdowns of social order and stability. So yeah, turn on the TV, read newspapers. I think most of us probably are aware that this is happening in front of our very eyes, and Habermas predicted that 20, 30 years ago. We also see that people at earlier levels of consciousness have way more children than people at later levels of consciousness. And so that's one reason why we see so many challenges to democracy and what some people now call illiberal democracy. We see a lot of these autocratic leaders and people who are liberals and democratically oriented and postmodern. They're very concerned about that there is this backshift. We're feeling we're moving back into mythic societies and autocratic societies, and that's already happening in many countries. Most extreme, like in Afghanistan with the Taliban, but also in other countries. So one of the reasons, if not the main reason, is that people in later stages of development procreate much less than people in earlier stages. And so we also see that if you look at the world fertility rate, that in the Northern Hemisphere and also down here, most countries now have birth rates that are way below 2 children per woman. And since people become older and work longer, we don't fully see the effects yet. So, and these economies are often thriving because you have very few children and not so many old people yet, and a lot of people in productive ages. But, this is now moving higher and higher, the average age in countries, and that will create problems that never happened before in human history. So there's a book called 8 Billion and Counting, where the female author analyzes this dynamic, and only in sub-Saharan Africa will we add about 2 to 3 billion people, or the people there will add them. So we will kind of level out at 10, 11 billion, and then the overall humanity number of humans on the planet will decline. And that, of course, also creates huge potential problems. So we look at 8 different reasons why relationships matter. These were only 3. And then you get a certificate at the end of the training, and it's 26 2-hour live group sessions. You can pick between 2 sessions each week. And if you don't want to do the training, have more an experiential life workshop, you may also sign up for the workshop in Ava near Istanbul from May 17th through the 21st. And Khaled ElSherbini with his wife will be there and co-facilitate and co-host. And they're a wonderful integral couple with a shared purpose and passion for raising consciousness based on the Enneagram, but also mystical teachings. He's just an amazing teacher and human being, and so is his wife. So hopefully you can come, and we have other people who will come who will contribute to the training based on their expertise.